Masterminds, Zack, Applewhite. Real quick before I get started, let's acknowledge the bear in the room. This is not where I live. I'm on a weekend away. I just kind of wanted to excuse the woodworking real quick. Today I actually just wanted to talk about something that came up in my one-on-one with Snowy, which was being intentionally unoptimal and moving forward with intention. And so the reason that this came up is that I talk a lot in the group about the best way to do things, the most optimal way to do things. And I think that in some ways you can easily fall into a pitfall, a trap of, if I'm not doing things optimally, I shouldn't do them at all. If I'm not doing things, that are the exact way that, Zack or other people say to do them, that I'm doing something wrong. And I wanted to be very clear that I do not do everything optimally. One, I make mistakes. Two, is that it's a matter of capacity. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that there is an unoptimal, just standard piece of my business that me and my wife are building together that I know it's there and I have to work around it, and it's not going to go away for a very long time. And that's that she is publishing books that are loosely, if at all, connected to the games that Applewhite Games produces, and that Applewhite Games is producing games that are in no way connected to her books. The first series of her books is loosely connected to Cthulhu mythos, and Applewhite Games is going to go into things far beyond the Cthulhu mythos. This is unoptimal. This is unoptimal because it's confusing brand-wise. We had people backing, 200 plus people backing my wife's book, and most of them had never heard of us before. Now, we had to launch on Applewhite Games because that's where our audience was. That's where we converted so many people, the core people. You want to know where your first 10, 20 backers are coming from? That's where they were coming from. And it worked spectacularly. We had to put it on Applewhite Games. However, I wonder if we didn't list people because I made the mistake of naming it Applewhite Games and not Applewhite Publishing, because I was thinking 2, 3, 4, even 5 years ahead of time, but I was not thinking 10 years ahead of time. Okay, and so now I've expanded. I made a mistake that has made my unoptimal situation worse. Eventually, Applewhite Games will just be about games, and my wife will have her own Kickstarter or won't need Kickstarter anymore, and will be able to just do things in a more traditional sense. We'll get there when we get there. The point is that I'm doing something that's unoptimal. Now, I do wish that I had gone back and said, let's call it Applewhite Publishing, because under publishing, we can make games, and we can make books, and we can do a lot of other things, okay? So I do wish I'd done that. But I do not think that we should split things off all the way, and that my wife should run her own business and I should run my own business, because we work better as a team. And this is what I want to talk about, is intentionally unoptimal. It is unoptimal that we have a brand of Applewhite Games, which I wish was Applewhite Publishing, okay, that is covering both games and books that are loosely, if at all, tied together. However, I identify and accept this unoptimal facet of my business. I have a plan in the future to make it a little less crunchy, all right? But for now, I accept that it is going to be a little more difficult to get people to understand the Applewhite brand, since it's a little bit jaded, okay? And that is going to make me lose some people in the short term. And that's something that I wanted to put out there, is that, first of all, it is okay to be unoptimal. The important thing is to identify where you're unoptimal. I'm unoptimal in how I put on content. I talk a lot about how you should take, big pieces of content, chop it up, put it in places, and do that as much as possible. But I'm also very clear that you need to do it sustainably, that you need to do it in a way that you can do repeatably. Okay, and so it is unoptimal that I'm not on all platforms at all time with long form and short form pieces of content perfectly tailored to each platform. That's unoptimal. But if I were to do all that, it would be unsustainable. And so I want to give you the permission to be unoptimal, but to do so intentionally and to identify where you're unoptimal. And the reason to do that is so that you can forgive yourself for being unoptimal, and so that when you have the capacity to be more optimized, you can go be more optimized. Because as soon as I have the capacity to do more content on more platforms, that's what I'm going to do. As soon as my wife and I have the capacity to put more effort into her building her publishing side and me building my game side, that's what we're going to do. In the meantime, we are being intentionally unoptimal. We are forgiving ourselves for being unoptimal, and we're moving forward because it's not worth the brain power to think and be put down on ourselves that we're not doing things perfect. And that's the video. I want you all to have an excellent day. There is a heron outside my door. I'm going to go take a picture of it. Y'all have a great day.